Pretty big deal.
Well, hold on, Wardy. Are you telling me that soO won with roaches?
He won with, well, Zest played a lot of glaives, right? So in
Gotcha.
soO's defense, he was just counterattacking against the glaives a lot. But yes, more or less.
Good stuff.
All right, grand finals. This is it. This is what it's all come down to. There's a $500 difference between first and second place, as we do have in the bottom right our red Protoss player, Zest.
In the bottom left, it is the TSL5 champion, the Blue Zerg, soO.
Yeah, and he gets to play one of the hottest Protoss out in Korea at the moment to try and show us what he's got. Obviously, we saw him taking down Innovation at TSL finals, and in general, soO has continued to look very good lately. Across the board, right? Like, I don't think there's been like a specific matchup he's looked weak in. I don't think there's been a time where it's like, oh, soO, like, yeah, he's not looking so hot right now. He did fall out of the stay-at-home Story Cup, playing against Denver in some CVC, and he also lost against Clem. But played some pretty close series there, and that was maybe the weakest he's looked, and that's actually the only thing he played actually since the TSL 5. And of course, he did come through the entire winner bracket of the TSL 5 as well, kind of similar to how he's done it here in the Spring Championship.
It's kind of sometimes just a very tricky guy to judge, because I feel like he is one of those guys that is the saying class is permanent, form is temporary, like really fits. This guy has been good at all the metas, same as like Innovation, for instance, but obviously we know him more as the guy who got second place. He still got second place in like the best tournament in the world, so repeatedly. So if every time we say, you know, okay, I don't know if he's doing very well, he wins a tournament, I'm totally fine with that. I'm like, okay, that's just soO having good mechanics, and occasionally maybe his aggression works out better than some other days. But if Zest is going to be a kind of a one-trick pony, just like the last time they played, that could bode very poorly for him. I don't know if he's had a couple of days to rethink how to approach the Adepts against soO. Maybe there's something wrong with how he used them, but yeah, you're going to do like the same thing over and over and over and over again. Twilight Council coming down, so this is why I'm bringing it up. Yep. And what are you really going to expect to be different?
Yeah, I mean, this is the best. I actually worry about Zest in a best of 7 in PvZ, because I just wonder, like, how many times can you build a Twilight Council in one series? Now, I did see, shockingly, Zest build a Stargate in PvZ the other day. It didn't work, so maybe that was his one time trying it, and maybe we'll just stick to Twilights. I think it's a really good point, right? This is going to be a lot of the same. It's going to be a lot of Glaives. It's going to be a lot of Dark Shrines, probably. And then at some point, it's going to be a mix of both of them as well.
Well, for a while, and by a while, I mean like longer than anyone else, honestly, Zest was the Archon drop guy. So seeing Archon drop here is not surprising, but that's kind of the neat thing about this Resident Glaives thing that he brought forward, was that you have both options that can look similar up to a point, especially since we're not counting on the Overlords to actually get full detailed scouting, right? They're maybe going to get a Suicide Scout at this point, for instance, which would still be fantastic, but they're not going to always have full information. In fact, a lot of people just, for the 4-month period, it felt like everyone was going Overlord speed. Even after it was reversed on the cost. Yeah, I feel like we don't see it at all anymore.
Yeah, it's just not a thing in CVP, right? I think it's just because you can't afford it to be a thing in, you know, a lot of these scenarios where you're playing against Adepts and stuff. The builds are so tight. To spend 100 on Overlord speed, you just can't invest that much when there are other things that basically tell you what's coming. And yes, okay, maybe you don't know Dark Shrine versus Glaives, but you just have to prepare for both, and that's cheaper than investing 100 gas that early into Overlord speed. So it's just one of those things. As Zest will take a third base on the bottom side. This is quite nice, because actually soO doesn't quite see this. He does see a probe moving down, though, and he sees the probe's minus, so it gives him a pretty good idea to check it out later, perhaps. But yeah, that's actually a pretty... Probably doesn't expect it already, because it isn't mined out yet. So yeah, nice little tricky play from Zest, and yeah, it's a fun way to start, as it does mean the Dark Templar just don't exist, though.
Clever. You know, Zest with a full wall off of the front was a little bit of a tell there. soO actually very quick to walling out the middle, which is the fastest place to mine out for Golden Wall, and that is working out very nicely for him. Not just scouting that their Nexus is in fact already on the way, but actually getting on top of it like you would if they took it in a normal third, and forcing some defensive warp-ins. Now, I mean, these are warpings are going to happen eventually anyways, but even if it buys a couple extra seconds, that's nice. Gets the confirmation on what it is, obviously. And, well, now it's something that Zest will have to worry about for future potential engagements, is that his third has been found out. There is an entrance to it. And he has not done anything to slow soO down except be Protoss.
Yeah.
Like, soO had to make the Spore Crawlers and a couple of Lings, but other than that, not much has gone on.
Yeah, he's just had to respect the fact that this could have been DTs across the map because he didn't see the Warp Prism was still over here for a long time. He didn't notice the third until a little bit later on, and that's obviously the difference that's been made. So he still had to make a few roaches just in case. Of course, those roaches will still help you out now, but soO was able to go very quickly into drones, realizing what the situation was. So he's already just building up into drones now, and he's on a pretty good worker count, right? Like 60 to 57. Yeah, it was a little bit better a few moments ago, and he has just dropped down a couple of things, such as a fourth hatch, extra extractor, the Spire, and that will be an attempt to switch into Mutalisks at some stage. So for the moment, he's going to commit through to Roach Speed and the +1 missile attack, so not any sort of Ling Bane style, but Roaches into Mutas, and then maybe a big Roach timing after that. See exactly what the approach would be, and maybe just how much the Mutas are able to get done initially as well.
How Zest usually plays out this south base, because it's, you know, he's also walled off his natural, so like usually it's very easy. If they don't get pushed, they set up their +1 attack or, you know, whatever they want to do, and then they just move out. But here he would either have to destroy a wall, which, you know, is totally fine, can definitely happen, or you can go to the south, but then obviously he has to mine out his opponent's minerals. It's not like Terran when you siege up a bunch of tanks to the south. So I wonder if this actually delays his push at all, enough that soO felt very confident going for that Spire, as opposed to just somewhat confident, or if he just is used to expanding more towards the south. I mean, we honestly don't see a whole lot of PvZs on this map. It's so much of a TvZ map to me.
Yeah, and I also feel like even when you do see PvZ, like everyone has their own way of playing it and their own little style and things they like to do. And so it's very tough to just be like, oh yeah, you know, this guy likes to do this, so I'll do that. Like, you just kind of, it's a weird one in that way, right? But it obviously keeps it very interesting and very fresh. Here come our 10 Mutalisks then. The Spire was on the natural and has been scouted, so you know about it as Zest. You know Mutas are a possibility. There's a lot of cannons on the way, a lot of them on this bottom side here. You'll have one in the main and obviously maybe a couple on the natural, so really just trying to react his through on the natural as well. So it's a lot of cannons. These Mutas are actually not really long, you know, really set up to do much damage at all here with that amount of cannons in play.
It's true, the initial Mutas aren't going to do a whole lot. I mean, being scouted, that's maybe the expectation from soO. The tricky part is that if you're not going to go for Stargate and Anti-Impulse Crystals on those Phoenix, the tricky part is not forcing this game into a base race, which would be very odd, because Golden Wall is just a very odd map. Already starting off kind of well for Zest. Actually gets a Muta there. Not just denies it, but actually kind of punishes it. But yeah, what is Zest's future game plan? I mean, soO just feels like he's going to take the top side of the map and then, you know, not be worried about being pushed, because he's going to constantly have tabs on the Protoss, and I'm just worried about if Zest can even do a push. soO feels like he's going to be in control of this map.
Yeah, soO is, soO definitely feels like he's sort of just overtaking the entire map right now, but Zest goes around this bottom side 4th base, and that's just, I mean, that's just sort of saying, I don't care what you do on the top side of the map, right? Like, you do you. I'm gonna maybe just focus on the bottom side, and then, I don't know where you end up, though, right? Like, where do you end up going eventually? Just, because eventually, if you're gonna punish the Zerg, you gotta end up fighting the top side, right? You gotta hit the top left. How do you get there? You just, I mean, maybe you just play a super passive, but that's obviously never good against a Zerg. I just don't see what the long-term game plan really is here. I mean, Cybercore goes down, that opens up a big run-by potential for Lings. And these Lings just going to help to finish off the gateway. soO will back away. Not diving in too far, just saying, you know, step by step, moment by moment, we'll just assess this and just try and pick away at Zest. And obviously, I think soO's in a position where he does just have all the time in the world to do what he wants, so doesn't need to force a fight just yet, because Zest just says, yeah, I'm just going to really sit back and do not much at all. As the storms go down, there's an extra one as well. The Mutas will have to start backing away. I didn't mind the initial idea of diving in, but with extra storms behind it...
Oh my god.
Yeah, Mutas can't stick around forever. They are still here. What are you... No, guys, stop. soO.
What are you doing?
No,
One
soO.
Archon. One accidental Archon shot. You... Why? Why would soO do this? Why would he ever... Like, okay, oh... I mean... My question is, why would he play so dangerously? He
Yeah.
has the entire map.
Yeah, he has.
He just said, please attack me. My mutas are all going to take time to regen. Not long, but still.
I know. Like, this is just like the observer always just saying. I was like, oh, he's poking here, he's poking there. And he like dives in. I don't mind the first dive in, right? You test him. He has 2 storms, he wolfs an Archon. When the 3rd storm comes down, you back away. But he stuck around so long. Now Zest is going to come across, and soO hasn't even had time to morph in any bane lanes or anything, which he's just gotten set up. So again, this is like the worst possible time for him to end up in a fight. And it is mass stalkers, a couple of Archons supporting. So these mutas are never going to have a great time. And soO made a misplay there. He dives for the prison, but the stalker count is already so good on this side. Reinforcing mutas aren't really going to make the difference, and Lings obviously aren't going to do anything here either. And soO just made a big mistake. That was a horrible couple of moments.
That was this is shocking, man. But Zest, I mean, he kind of did the thing in that just being patient worked out against a muta player, which can happen, but it's usually not supposed to. Usually something else is happening that the Zerg player suddenly is like, I want to end this. I want to just like get it done with. Like they're either really winning, or a shocking start there on Golden Wall. I don't know if I would still advise to play like Zest did, but if it works, it works. And starting off Everdream with that very fast probe sent out to make sure he gets a denial on that hatchery. In the top right, it is Zest.
Against the blue Zerg on the bottom left-hand side, we do have a soO who will be, as he's mentioned, hatchery blocked. Just no real way to get that down. The only, maybe if you go like hatch before Overlord on 14 is like the one way. It's like the only way. So it's and that's obviously it's not very eco-focused. Then you're behind on eco from where you would be. Plus the fact that obviously if he doesn't try and block you, then you've taken that damage for 0 reason at all.
Yeah. This is I mean, Denver I know has done that before. He's like really been bothered by the hatch block, but I've also seen it on this map in particular because it is so, I guess, common to have that early probe, even going up to 17 and just immediately taking it where suited, just basically saying you are going to do it, and I'm going to kind of call it. Well, it was still a 16 hatch, but it did come down as fast as it could. So there's that. But Zest got what he wanted, got the interruption, and this can be, I mean, just the start of something more. And by more, I mean the adepts coming in as well, constantly forcing the Zerg player to conform to your build, which can become, I mean, a problem. Like last game, he had to with the Spore Crawlers, even though they were actually necessary when all was said and done. Something you have to consider against not just Protoss, but especially Zest.
So we do have the waiting game basically happening as we wait for the Cybercore to finish up. And when that Cybercore finishes up, we'll obviously get the choice of Twilight Council. Well, not Twilight Council. It's pretty much going to be a Twilight Council with a block initially, so we just wait to see what comes off of that, of course. If it is indeed going to be those Glaive Adepts, or if he goes DT Opener once again.
Why not Adepts and a Dark Shrine?
Well, he could be as well.
Heck yeah. Something that legitimately can't happen and is very, very annoying. You think you dealt with the Adepts first, and then the Spore Crawlers, they do come up again because it's just kind of the anticipated thing to build against both. And then the DTs warp in when you're not paying attention to them and kill your Spore Crawler. Happens a decent amount. Zest is definitely Twilight Council once again. Two, are you even gonna scout?
Yeah.
Just assume.
I know, it's it kind of feels like it should be like the weakness to this build that you can just assume it's coming, right? But that just goes to show how strong it is, because you can just use it again and again and again, right? So yeah, a little bit funky, as we do see Zest is building this robo facility on the natural, and we just wait for the decision. Extra gateway. Looks like we'll start up Glaives here. Nope, he puts a probe as though he wants to build a Dark Shrine.
He's still all in gas, so
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, it can be a little tricky because the 2 in both is like the Resident Glaives. I think you still need 3 in both if you're gonna do Resident Glaives plus Dark Shrine. But yeah, if we see it stuck in there 3 to 3, 6 in the main base, it's generally the Dark Shrine. No.
So there we go,
So
Dark Shrine again. Of course, Zest last game didn't even go for like the regular way you play a Dark Shrine, right? Because last game he went for the, you know, he just
defensive.
Yeah, he just kept it at home, right? Like he never actually morphed in the DTs across the map. So in a way, this is the same build, but obviously it should absolutely play out differently this time around. Yeah, I mean, there's no two ways about it. Like, absolutely should be done differently. If he sits at home, then I'm going to be absolutely astonished. This is obviously the fake out to make it look like Glaives as well with the forward depth, so you have to respect that as soO. And right now, soO is not committing into any sort of a detection, and this is just a game ender. If you don't start up Spore Crawlers soon, starts one on the third base, one on the natural, and one on the main. But the Prism is already going to arrive. DTs are going to warp in. It's going to be very clutch timing.
It is going to be 3, because he only has 3 gateways. So it's somewhat good news as far as maybe saving the Spore Crawler, but he's going to have to surround it with drones.
Which he does. Yeah, it's always terrifying, right? Because you just never know when it's going to show up. But even this, right, it's, you know, a few Lings going down already, a couple of drones going down. It's still not ideal, because just whenever you lose drones, right, it's not ideal, as we do see one extra DT will warp in, and this will just be Archons morphing. So Zest will just continue the pressure. Now, soO goes straight across the map, and actually these Lings, there's a lot of them, so he might be able to get a cancel on this third base. It's going to be tough, because the Adepts are choked up. But if he just dives to the third, he doesn't even necessarily have to fight the Adepts, right? And he can just go, and yeah, he's got way too much damage to be dealt with there. So he'll get that, and then even still go for these units, even when they settle themselves down in the choke point.
Yeah, it's a nice run by for sure. Zest is going to try and continue with his Archon drop, which, yeah, is not going to do very much. The Queens aren't here to stop the Warp Prism, though, so he's going to dance around and just really try and make up for this Nexus being denied. This one will be saved, but the cost of 2 more DT Warp-ins. And the Archon drop still hasn't done a ton. Pretty clutch timing for soO to defend with the Spore Crawler against that fast DT attack, and very, very nice of him to get that canceled third Nexus. Feel like he's in a good spot, but I also felt that way last game. And and he maybe got a little overconfident.
Well, let's see what he does off the lair. As the lair finishes up, he obviously gives us an idea as to where he wants to go next. We'll start Roach Speed, no surprise there. I guess the real question is what comes in off the Evo chamber, right? Are we going to see a melee upgrade and maybe switching up towards Ling Bane much faster this time? Or are we just going to see, you know, this commitment to +1 missiles again, and Roach Speed obviously will accompany that? What is the choice then from soO? It is going to be +1 missiles. So he is going to start on Roaches, maybe potential to play Hydras and Lurkers with this as well eventually, but very Roach heavy initially. Again, could maybe transition a bit later, but yeah, I guess we'll see.
He did start off with +1 missile last game under the Spire, but I feel like that was like a really nice thing to do on Golden Wall in that situation, scouting what he did. I don't know about Everdream, so maybe just a big old Roach swell. He is kind of that guy. The Roachy boy. And, maybe get another scout, or is that a drop?
Oh my god,
it's gonna be a drop. Oh, speaking of a drop. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Wow, Prism just gets away. 1 queen shot from death. Does lose the Observer. Prism, why are you still here? Yeah.
What are you doing?
Zest plays with like zero care, like zero concern, I suppose is the right word, right? Like he's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna nearly lose everything all the time, and that's perfectly okay because most of the time it works out. Like, I don't know what a great set of logic is. The Infestation Pit coming in from soO as well.
Chat's right, that's the queen nerf.
That is the queen nerf, yeah, actually. Wow.
Well, that either proves that Zest has played enough games to get comfortable with the new patch, or he just is lucky and forgot.
I feel like the moment where you've accidentally flying the Prism over the queens to begin with, I feel like that's that might be more of a luck-based one, you know?
Yeah. Well, the Overlord drop did come in, but it wasn't Banelings. There's no Baneling nest. It was just like 4 Lings in the main that are getting a scout, and it's kind of like, okay, all right, that was a weird one. Okay. Maybe Roaches later on, or maybe Banelings. There's a Baneling nest, but no typical hooks. I don't know why he did that, but he still has the Overlord alive, so maybe in the future it'll be a bit better. soO's actually going to not be a Roach boy. Got an Infestation Pit, went up to a Hive and a Spire. On one of the shortest maps that we have, this feels dangerous, but it also is kind of uncommon for soO, and maybe just in general. And if he can hold against his first push, maybe Zest won't actually have the means to punish this this tech. Which it seems like he's held it.
Yeah, Zest's already fallen back, but then he warps in 6 more Stalkers and 2 Zards.
Yeah, still go with it.
Yeah, he's not building anything else to kind of continue into the later stages of the game. There's no Storm or Temple Archives. There's no +2 attack starting. Zest is building to push and to win this out, basically, very, very soon. So, yeah, trying to figure out what he can do, and honestly, I mean, these Banes still don't have Bane speed, so it's not a bad time for Zest to attack at all. He's a bit afraid. Honestly, if he scouts here and sees no Bane speed, he's probably going to be kicking himself a little bit. He's like, man, I backed away and I didn't need to. And now he's going to turn back around, but now there will be Bane speed finishing. So, yeah, kind of Zest killing his own timing a little bit. Of course, until Broodlords are out, this is still always going to be a timing. As here we go, our Banes are going to roll forward. Force fields actually kind of got broke down, I think, by the Archon there. So the Banes still got through. There's just a lot of tanky units, and it's hard to justify continuing to run Banes into all of them.
Exactly. That concave off creep, not going to be the best, but pops at least one Immortal Shield. These Stalkers a little more clumped up, blinking away just at the last second, and more Projectiles actually hitting some important units. soO is not quite remaxing. It actually seems he may have an inject problem. Not enough larva to use all of his minerals and gas. And Zest is going to continue on here. Lots of weak units, but War Prism's still alive to grab a base or maybe the game.
Yeah, I mean, this base at the front's going to go down, of course. This is soO just trying to rebuild on Roachling Bane, and the more he has to do this, I mean, he hasn't even started the Great Aspire just yet, so no actual, not even close to really having Broodlords. I mean, you now already lose a 4th base. That can kind of suck. Here you go. These Banes are going to roll in, and this is where we really get our questions answered. You know, does soO have enough to maybe eventually turn this around? And honestly, it seems like no. There's so many Stalkers left here, but then it is just Stalkers, and that is it, right? And more Stalkers warping in. It's a mass Stalker army. I don't think that can quite move through, because you can't like aggressively blink into the Ravagers because there's Banelings still there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And that wasn't just a 4th base. You know, there's another 4th base, if you will, down to the bottom right. So soO actually has not been cut that much on mining. Obviously, his armies are expensive, so this is still a disruption to his Greater Spire plan. But Zest, by having so many Stalkers left alive and pulling back, he might be able to hit before that Broodlord number is high enough to like just totally dominate him, right? But that is kind of the point we're getting to. No 4th base, no additional +2 attack. He actually went for armor instead and into shields now. But he still has not scouted. The War Prism doesn't get a scout. He hasn't seen the Infestation Pit. He hasn't seen the Spire. Hasn't seen the Hive. He might just think that this is still Roach Ravager and Banelings. I don't know, man. I don't know. These 6 Corruptors turn into Broodlords. It's not like... Again, not game ending, but it gets closer and closer to game ending the longer Zest doesn't have a response to Broodlords.
I mean, right now, I guess like a massive Stalkers might be something of a response, but what does Zest even... Like, Zest actually didn't add on any more tech, by the way. Like, he is just still Mass Stalker, and okay, he warped in some Zealots. Like, that's not tech. You know, that's additional gateway units. He's just not doing anything to really... Okay, now he morphs in 7 DTs, but this feels more like he's planning to run by than really like fight a Broodlord army. I mean, okay, again, like the first set of Broodlords are not super scary. The more Broodlords that go up here, the worse this is, of course, is going to be for Zest, but soO does have to get to those more Broodlords first before I guess we have to worry about that too much. Nice cancel on the 4th base, so Zest will not get to 4 bases here still. Will just be kept down on 3.
Yeah. That's pretty bad news. I mean, I kind of like the idea of trying to just split a Broodlord player apart, but that's only really scary, I feel like, well, one, when there's not Banelings, because they're still kind of taking away the option of blinking underneath those Broodlords. And 2, when they're, like, really on Broodlords, you know? Like, there's 20 of them, and they're most of their army. So, will the split still do damage? Yeah, probably. But will it do enough damage to take away this technology that just outright beats what Zest has? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, Lings are going to find some of these fun fights against just Stalkers. The Archon's not getting involved, and that's pretty good. As on the left-hand side, the pure Stalker force is going to get pushed away. I do feel like soO loses a lot of Lings on that right side, but he also has a ton of money in the bank to rebuild off of that, so the only issue I have then is that maybe he's now just used up a lot of his lava, which he might need after this main fight. So, well, let's see. Broodlord's already moving through. The Stalker's going to blink for these Broods. There's no Banes here. Yeah,
there's no Banelings at all. Like, a lot of the army went to the left side, and that was exactly the moment that Zest was looking for, to blink underneath to grab every last Broodlord. And he still has a lot of units left over. Zest, with the multi-pronged attack, apparently was going to be enough. He actually just pulled soO apart.
Yeah, quite literally pulled soO apart, pulled him to the left side. Broods are abandoned, essentially, on the right. And Zest is going to take a 2-0 lead in this best of 7. Our third map. Zest up 2-0. We go into Eternal Empire as our one where basically I feel like this already kind of becomes a bit make or break, right? Because if Zest, Red Broadus in the top right, wins this, he's on match point, And a reverse sweep in a best of 7 is very difficult.
Happen too often. In the bottom left, it is the blue Zerg soO. And if he were to lose this, he'd have to channel his inner Sulky.
Yeah.
Start cheesing all the time.
Trying to just Roach Rush, Bane all in, Bane Bust. I don't even proxy hatch, I guess.
Yeah, right? Man, you know, even when proxy hatch was like the thing to do, I'm thinking like way back when, by the way, like Pro League, actually. Because it's been the thing to do occasionally, like once every, like for a month every year, it feels like proxy hatch is the thing to do. But anyways, Rogue was that cat. He was the one that went for proxy hatch. I actually really don't remember soO ever doing proxy hatches. I'm sure he did,
Yeah.
I just don't remember it.
I was gonna say it's actually it's just I'm saying all these things, but it's actually not how soO plays. Like soO will be aggressive, but it's a mid-game aggression almost every time.
Yeah.
He much prefers that to anything that's, you know, that goes on early, basically. So it's definitely a bit of a different approach, I suppose. But he is just so good at the mid-game as well, right? So definitely makes a lot of sense as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's at the same time that he can sometimes be a one-trick pony. Sometimes, like it's also just usually because he's really good in that mid game. I don't want to call him a one-trick pony though, but Zest is kind of being that guy. But to call him one trick is also a bit disingenuous because while he's opening the same, he is definitely using it differently, right? First game was weirdly defensive and just maybe a product of Golden Wall. And the second game was a lot more standard, but you know, his follow-ups are actually still looking very, very good. So he's not depending on his opener to get him the leads. He is depending on his actual decision making to get him the leads, or soO's not fantastic decision making, either one. I will say I'm just a little surprised in general that soO did Hive last game. And I don't know if that was him trying to play out of the standard, out of the expected for him, or if he thought he was in a good position to do so after not taking too much damage, but I definitely would still expect soO to be that mid-game aggression guy.
Well, good old Zest with the Twilight. Just doesn't want to change anything up, huh? I mean, maybe time to actually go Glaives. You know, we've not actually seen that yet, so could still be different, even though it's a Twilight, right? It has just been Dark Templar a couple of times. In fairness, it feels like, you know, obviously soO's had pretty good setups initially, both games. I think I said this just before we went into break, but he's had pretty good setups. He's just then struggled to really play the game out and to really do much to kind of end the game or to kind of take some control back in his hands. You know, it's been a little rough as we do see the Adept of Zest is going to shade out a couple of lag spikes.
Yeah, I was like, please someone else see that. Like, I really hope it's not me.
I actually think that might be me dying. My ping
Oh, it's me.
It is you. Oof. We can...
I guess I'll just leave. This is weird.
Yeah, sure. We can get you back for game 4, ZG.
Sure.
It's all good. All good. All right, so on to the solo cast. See master plan. Well, I don't think it's just CG because we are still lagging as well. Yeah. Apparently, well, Gaming are going to try and leave as well. I feel like everyone is trying to leave. Hang on, let me...
Game paused.
Yeah. I feel like it's everyone. Yeah, like things are just going so well. And yeah, things are going like so well and then just it just falls apart. Hang on, let me I think it is the whole of battle now. I think everybody just spiked kind of crazy high. And now it's just normalizing a little bit. Yeah, it seems like the Korean server's just deciding to have a little bit of a nightmare. Yeah. Okay. All right. And give this a try. Maybe I'll kind of smooth again. All right, well, ZG, maybe I can share my screen to you on Discord if it doesn't like my stream too much.
Maybe.
We can give it a go. I think it's okay,
Right.
Unless it goes like super late game, maybe.
Okay.
Cool. We can just try this. So it does seem as though it's been somewhat resolved for the most part. Doesn't seem to be too much. It just seemed like the entire BattleNet decided to just kind of shit the bed a little bit for a couple of moments. So things are stabilizing now. It is indeed the Resonant Englave setup then from Zest. So he's going to get into that Resonant Englaves, and that's going to be finishing up shortly to give you that, well, aggressive attack with the Adepts already moving across. Now, soO's actually counterattacking with Lings, but there's no third base yet to actually cancel. So he'll delay the third base, but not going to cancel or anything. So these Lings might want to just come back home. He's going to try and go at the front, and actually that will force an Adept Warp in at home.
Bit concerning though, like maybe the recognition of the build is now happening as he realizes, like, wait a minute, no third, no DT's being warped in, but as soon as these Adepts stop being warped in defensively, there's going to be a lot of them very quickly on the offensive. And soO needs to make sure it doesn't take extreme damage there. It is Queen Ling defense so far. No roaches really haven't been built up. Okay, that was a... I don't know about that transfer.
Yeah, Brave Shade. I think the idea just being that he could get the Prism there to save it, but now he's taking a lot more damage on the Prism than I think he wanted to. And now the Prism can't stop to warp in again, right? So now you don't get that extra warp in you usually have to really make this scary. And yeah, soO kind of survived without roaches for a long time here because he did force those Adepts to warp in across the map. So good for soO because now he counters and he actually has the Lings to just cancel this third base once more.
Yeah, now this is pretty brutal. I mean, not having it was Zest's part of his plan. Now he really wants it. It's not going to happen. Even with Resonant Englave, the Adepts cannot save it. That kind of freaked me out. It looked like a non-cancel explosion instead of a cancel explosion, but no, he did cancel it. Got the money back at the very least, but he really needs to add more damage here. Or Prism's endless potential, I suppose, but this one is not really living up to its true potential.
Yeah, the only thing is soO is a little bit low on workers, right? And he's starting to fix that now. Obviously, it looks like he just wants to go across the map and really fight. And it just is dangerous, right? Because if this doesn't work, then he is going to be struggling to rebuild a bit. He added on 4 drones, then he's gone back into just units. And like I said, I think he's done enough here where actually this attack should just work out. But
yeah,
it absolutely does have to work out. Otherwise, you're going to get into some trouble.
Yep, he had on a few more drones, but they were almost deceiving. Like, he is going for the push. He is going to try and either win this game or certainly delay the third base once again. Grab a lot of the probes and the transfer. But winning the game is preferable. So he heads in. That is not a very strong army there from Zest. Now it's going to be potentially caught by the Lings. It does kind of get back for choke, but that Immortal on the wrong side, man.
At least there's a Prism, but that's already the Immortal barrier, and a lot of its shield's just gone, right? And that's less than ideal. There's only 1 pylon power in the Robo at the front, so if you lose that pylon, then of course you only have 1 Immortal, and maybe you can set the Prism up overhead, but that's really risky with Corrosive Bile. So yeah, good breakthrough here by soO, and he's going to continue through into this. This Immortal survived a very long time. I mean, Zest is now trying to build a battery, but obviously that should be a prime target to stop any sort of overcharge. And look how many probes have gone down. So at this point, soO can transition out as well, knowing he's actually got a work account that's actually somewhat competitive here again. He's still splitting Zerglings in, and actually Button Lings is working out quite nicely for the moment. There's the overcharge, and you should just turn back around to a third base that actually does have some probes on it, so you can get even more damage done here.
Really too bad about the depowering of the second Immortal, right? That Robo. That also could have helped clean this up just a little bit faster. Unfortunately, that is a huge loss of probes, but 3 Nexus can try and boost. You know, if he had stopped at like 35 probes, I'd be like, yeah, 3 Nexus, maybe he can boost. He's going to have an upgrade, he's going to have Blink. But all the way down to like 26. Now just getting back to it. Oh, I don't know. That's going to be really tough. But if soO also continues committing units into Immortal Warp Prism, then I don't know. Maybe it can still change. These Adepts are going to get taken out pretty quickly, I would say. He's just going to try to defend the low ground. I thought he was just going to go for the high ground and come back later, but we'll see how this works.
Well, Lings and Ravager just trying to break through. I don't think this is... I think it's okay, right? Because you're forcing force fields and trading out a little bit. Like, soO's also still just like 20 workers ahead, so that about it be done. I think it's one of those scenarios where it's like it doesn't really matter if he goes in again, as long as he's not losing like the Ravagers. Like if it's just Lings, it's very affordable for soO.
Good point, especially. Yeah, Lings. Something you can give away. Ravagers, that would be a little bit trickier. But that is something you have to be concerned about. When the Lings are all gone and you're retreating against Immortals and a War Prism, they will chase after you. So that's I guess, maybe a bit of a concern. I just don't think that Zest, even if he did that, would have too much of a counter push. And if he can't just build probes as, you know, easily as he wants here, then that's still the bigger problem for Zest. Even if he can defend, we'll never get a good enough economy.
Couple units of Zest have to pull back once more. We have more Death Warping in. The overcharge is up right now, so as soon as that fades away, I imagine that's the time where soO maybe goes and really pushes in once again. He gets a few Lings to tank at the front. Not too many just yet, but there are more continuing to stream across. And yeah, I mean, at this point, Zest is trying to like kite into these Ravagers just to try and trade out with them, knowing that actually it's not so bad if you can get rid of some of these Ravagers, but yeah, it just comes at so much of a cost. He's losing so much, and now you've lost one of the 2 Immortals that were kind of the key. So yeah, obviously if you're going to win this game, it's one of those scenarios where you kind of need to keep the tech units alive to build up more and more. Otherwise, the larger waves of Zerg are just going to be overwhelming.
Again, if he was also able to get to 55 probes during this, produce 150 minerals worth of probes every round with this, I'd be like, okay, you know, we've seen comebacks before with this, but he had to completely stop producing probes to fit in the adepts that he's able to fit in, despite having a Twilight Council, the Blink, I should say, Twilight Council upgrade. He's actually never been able to use it. Yeah. He's just been depending on these Resonating Glaives to help against the Lings, which is unfortunate. And I don't blame him for not leaving, because there are so many comeback stories in a place like this, a Mortal War Prism, right? But
yeah,
too much.
If soO's doing this off of like less drones, for example, then actually maybe if you do just about hold on, then maybe there's a way you kind of make this work. But obviously we can see that soO has a higher drone count. It's just hard for Zest to know that for sure. I mean, he's going to start feeling it right now when so much is showing up all of the time. Corrosive Bowels on the overcharged battery, so it's not going to last too long either. It won't have much of an impact here. And soO will just continue to push in. I mean, even still, these 3 Immortals are making life difficult, and it, you know, the game won't end. And that's why you kind of stay in the game, because again, imagine soO's doing this up to like 45 workers, then it actually becomes very expensive, and maybe you can't keep on doing this, and then maybe Zest stays alive.
Okay, hear me out. Dark Shrine, kill a base, 5 Immortals, juggling War Prism, come back. Right? Slap down the Dark Shrine, Zest. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
I like that you're trying to keep the game alive, CG, but that's pretty much all I like about it. I mean, soO is just gonna. Zest has to micro his heart out right now if he's gonna make anything happen here. Here we go. We just go straight in. There's no battery overcharge available, no energy. Also, still on cooldown as well, even if there was energy. I mean, at some point, soO is still teching up as well. Adding a few Banes in is actually pretty nice, because then you just work your way through the start of this a little bit faster. There is our overcharge, so the battery to help out. This Nexus will go down though, and that will just be GG from Zest. He says, 3rd base dying, cool. That is my point at which I say, this is enough. You've done enough, well done. We're going into the next one.
He could do no wrong after that Broodlord game. Actually went in his favor. But we are spawning on Submarine, the shortest map in the map pool in the bottom right. Here's the red Protoss. We have Zest.
And the top left-hand side, our blue Zerg is soO map on the scoreboard for him. And keeping our grand finals here today alive. And,
well,
yeah, 4th map. I mean, early game PvZ, where we're expecting a bit of a different setup, actually, because Zest doesn't send the probe straight across.
Yeah, I saw the probe leave, and I was like, oh, okay. But no, not gonna do it here. And soO will be able to get his hatchery down nice and neat. We are talking about, yeah, officially the shortest map in the map pool. 32 seconds between naturals, 32. And I'm checking out these 3rd bases. It's just some of the first time I'm seeing Submarine in particular. And it is just a straight up travesty that these units are not floating in the water.
Yeah, it kind of is, isn't it? Like, you know what the good thing is, though? There is an underwater map in the set of TLMC maps that will be used for this future ladder map pools.
Okay, all right. I believe you, except it's the one that we want, so Blizzard's going to just dodge around it. The 20th voted map is going to be in the map pool before the underwater one.
Yeah. No, it's actually a good map as well, the underwater one. It's the one I would like to see in the map pool, so. fingers crossed, he'll be in the next one.
Yeah, we'll just keep our fingers crossed. You know what else I would like to see? StarCraft 2 is #1 esport. But our dreams will stay dreams, Wardy.
All right. Slightly harsh comparison to a map pool.
No, I actually don't really. I don't really personally care about maps a whole ton. I think we've had some fine ones, even if some, obviously Purity Industry didn't really have a lot to do in the last map pool, but they've been all right. I know the players are gonna have much more. They're gonna have stronger opinions than me. But I just want my things to float, man. I want to all float down here.
I just want to see the Reapers doing silly moves when they die, like flying off, floating up peacefully. It is fun. I feel like we could have like, why don't we have like low gravity on some of the, I mean, all of it's in space. Why can't we have some low gravity maps? It doesn't have to be underwater.
Or high gravity maps. Actually, all of the map is the interference matrix, or flow zones, rather, inhibitor zones. There we go. Because it's the high gravity. Wait a minute. Does everyone just have the same gravity no matter what world they go to? Aren't like Protoss like in some like Super Saiyan type of world, where it's like 10 times Earth gravity? How are they not just actually so much better than us?
I know. I mean, how come everyone can just swim as good as each other as well, right? On their underwater maps, like, hello.
That's a good point. What's happening there?
Not even using any scuba gear or anything, like. Aye. StarCraft.
Make any sense?
Things get in. They actually get a probe, and they also get to see the fact that this is the Twilight into Robo, as we now have the Dark Shrine building from Zest. So back to what worked for him in game number 1 and 2. Although again, I will bring it back up that it wasn't really the initial build order I think that worked for him and won those games as much as maybe su's mistakes. But obviously the glaives just did nothing at all for him here in that last game. So we'll just go Dark Shrine again now, and with 4 gates this time. So we actually saw Dark Shrine with the 3 gates on Everdream, and I think on the first map as well on Golden Wall. But I don't know, because still that map was crazy with the way that Zest just approached the 3rd base. So
yeah, I'm with you. I wasn't looking at the number of gateways either. So, but we did definitely have one to compare with Everdream, and well, that was fast. soO was able to barely buy that time with the drone pool in this one. soO will, unless he decides this is the game of all games not to build spore crawlers, he will have an appropriately timed detection. So Zest, I mean, I'm almost guarantee we'll see Resident Glaives in this best of 7, especially if we get a lot of like all 7 games, just because it is so nice to occasionally mix in there. But yeah, the last game did not go so hot. So back to what worked previously, and soO does not even need to scout this to be prepared for it.
Yep, I do like these lanes. Just going to go in after the Stalk. That's a nice kill initially, because then you can maybe even fly the Overlord through just to double scout what's going on and stuff, right? There's just a little bit less anti-air here initially as these GTs warp in, and Zest is just going to wait for the 4th GT before they move. But then he's just going to sit out the front, and kind of feels like now, after waiting a little while, generally you wouldn't try to just deal damage with the DTs, but Zest actually likes this, where he just shows up and, well, he gets 2 queens because they managed to wander into like the one spot between the bases that don't have creep. Now he gets a 3rd queen. This starts to be really good damage, as the final queen will stay alive, but there's another queen off creep here. We'll just get back on. He should be able to save this. Yeah, good effort by Zest so far, and finding some good damage out of this.
It was nice to find damage with DTs, because you still have that Archon drop to fall back on as well. Maybe getting a little overzealous at this point. Almost loses a DT. Takes a little hull damage on that Warp Prism, but behind he's getting a 3rd Nexus. soO's been pretty good about getting a decent number of lings across the map. In this case, he actually tries to find the Archons morphing, which he does. Going to cause Zest to morph in additional units to try and save these Archons. Unfortunately, one does go down.
Nice catch from soO, able to get rid of one of the Archons already. It's obviously a big win, as now we have the lair from soO just building in the main base. A few extra drones on the way out. Queen about to pop, and yeah, all of that continuing through as our lings come across, and they're actually going to go for the 3rd base. I mean, just again, denying an Archon already just slows down so much of what Zest would like to do. Now he's got an Archon and 2 Zealots, and that's just not really comparable in any way for picking up units, clearing out creep spread, or, again, anything really along those lines.
Even on a lair. All right, we'll see what he does with the lair tech. I guess it's the next interesting part of this game, since the Nexus is coming down easily for Zest. Pretty... Gosh, I want to say that's pretty quick charge, no?
Yeah.
We do not see a Forge.
It feels quick, and there's no support for it, so it definitely feels like maybe a bunch of Archons and You can see the sentry counts rising as well, which is always a pretty good indicator you're going to go across the map and be aggressive. So, yeah, definitely feels as though Zest has, plans to attack. And, it makes sense. A shorter map, right? You're really surrounded by choke points every single time you move anywhere. So you've got, your force fields are always effective, basically. I'll kill off this Overlord, which sees the 2 Immortals, but now a little bit less vision for soO. He'll just have to use these Lings to try and figure out, is there an army moving my way? And this is where something like the Spire from soO, great if he holds off the attack, but obviously it doesn't actually help him hold off the attack at all. And 77 drones is kind of feeling like a bit of overkill as well.
Yeah, and he's going to Aspire. He might be able to actually get mutas before the push hits, but sometimes it's not what you want. We don't have Stalkers in this particular game with Blink like we did the other games, but even just a warp-in of plain Stalkers can be enough for the early amount of mutas. So soO, he wants to actually just stop, not build mutas, just go all into Roach Ravager. Hopefully, key point being the Ravager count, but it doesn't look so hot right now. Even arm supplies does not work out favorably for the Zerg. +1 not done, road speed not quite done. That should be a kill in the 4th. I'd be surprised if soO actually tries to save it. Yeah, he pulls back.
This is one of those, just give it up. And again, maybe you rely on your Spire a little bit here, and you just kind of take some hits, including losing this 4th base, but it's going to be tough because you're going to have to defend this army at some point to be able to even get the chance to maybe use the Spire, so this is rough. I mean, the only good thing is that Zest didn't dive in straight away, so maybe +1 missiles gets finished. It's about 10 seconds away. Should be done very soon. So many Zealots for Zest, though, and 3 Immortals, 3 Archons. It's going to be a tough fight. First few Crows of Bars breaking those force fields down. Man, the Zealots are going to find all the Ravagers to the right-hand side. I don't even mind them just focusing over there and overwhelming, because these Immortals will make short work of any Roaches out on the left side of this. Zest gets more Warpins going in. He has split a few Zealots off into a mineral line as well, and this is just not an attack you really hold as soO, as Zest really will just clean out everything. Left, right, top, bottom. Like, there's not a single place where soO's defending. Zest will indeed take the 4th map and go up to match point advantage here in this grand final.
Game. Yeah. Otherwise, the other ones were like, oh yeah, I guess he just isn't the better player. Not, oh, I guess he messed up once. Like, Zest just looked to be stronger in 3 games. As we head into the overall 5th game on Ice and Chrome, I want to say soO can do it, but that was the 3rd time that the Archon drop opener has messed him up, and that the follow-up has been in Zest control. So I think it might happen again here.
Let's see how this goes. Bottom left-hand side, must win game. This is soO.
Top right is the Red Protoss. It is Zest. Very strong with the Archon opener, mostly because of the follow-up being varied and good decision-making.
Just gets the hatchery down. Was very close to being probe blocked there, but soO is just able to sneak it in. Probe was about 1 millimeter away, a couple pixels from getting the block. So yeah, soO gets his natural at least, which is at least a small mental victory in the early stages.
Contribute to it for sure. A little bit of 99 boo boo as well, because the probe is trying to not get it and stop it from going down. Yeah, Zest. Oh man, it feels like we are just gonna wait for Zest to go for Archon drop. I said we'll see more Resident Glaives, especially if this went to game 7, but considering what openers have worked out for him, what he's followed up with, maybe just not. He's got what other things can you do off that Archon drop? You could go for a faster charge even than what he did, but that's not too common anymore. And other than that, mostly just macro games, right? But that one definitely screwed up soO. He was not expecting that.
Well, do you have the setup for the moment as soO? That's the thing, right? Like, I feel like as soO, you're trying to always kind of guess what's going on. It feels like he never has good information. And it's like, that's kind of fine for the first 4.5 minutes, but then it feels like he doesn't quite know what's coming up after that, right? Like, going into like the couple minutes from there. Like, last game he killed an Archon, and that really denies the Archon drop, so he doesn't take any damage, and he still just doesn't have enough to realistically hold on, because he's overdrawn massively against, this kind of 2.5 base all in.
Yeah.
It's just information, scouting. It's what's really lacking here for soO more than anything else.
That's a good way to put it. I mean, he's preparing for the first stage of ZVP potential, which is the DT or the Adepts. He's like pretty prepared to deal with either one of those. But as far as the follow-up, like how many gateways, how many probes, how many gases, like it's not necessarily happening. Zest managing to find maybe assumptions and actually turn them on their head. So I still am a little surprised that we've only seen one game where soO has really brought it to Zest in the mid game. We've had 2 Muta games. Last game was going to be Muta, so it just didn't happen. And then one game where he did bring it to Zest, and that was the game that he won. But I guess when you're so worried about defending against this early stuff, it's hard to really get set up for an amazing push. Because as good as it is to defend Adepts or defend an Archon drop and say, okay, I'm just going to try and bust you, we know that Protoss have gotten good against that response. They recall the Warp Prism, they juggle the Archons, they juggle the Immortals, and now we're on one of the longer maps too. So I'm not sure soO feels comfortable doing that as a response.
I kind of, I actually don't think I've seen a ZVP on this map yet, but I'm kind of hoping this goes on a little bit longer, because it definitely feels like the map where soO can't use his his usual kind of counters, but then maybe the mutas that he's been trying to get into could be very good because of the size. It's, yeah, Ice and Chrome for me in general is like, I think the map which I really am still very unsure of in this entire new map pool, so always in the first week of the map pool, cool to see it getting used, and that's what these longer series are very good for, of course. No vetoes, and obviously actually getting to see more of the maps in each match, so.
Well, this is one of those faster DT builds with only 3 gateways. soO did see the exact timing of the Warp Prism, but I mean, maybe it is a difference of like 5 or 10 seconds on the actual DT warp-ins. He's got units prepared, but Zest chooses to go for the low ground and then elevator.
Then just
he tricked me.
Walk the other way. Yeah, he tricks you, so maybe you can trick soO. He's gonna wander over. soO doesn't look like he's seen them. That could be a... Yeah, maybe a kill on the spot, but soO still doesn't really seem to know. I feel like Zest sold this so well and then didn't actually benefit from selling it so well, you know?
Yeah. Thing is, if he could actually have warped anything into the main base, then it would have absolutely done it. Like, soO has to respond, but he couldn't. It was on cooldown. He's gonna do 3 Archon. No, he's really gonna use DTs to try and kill that main base.
Yeah, he's gonna go for it. And right now, soO is...
Alright.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's just going low. He's gonna go for a queen. The 2 DTs go to the 3rd, and I mean, initially here, these DTs doing well. They have to lift up one of them, but now you've got 2 DTs that actually, where do they go? They end up going to the natural expansion, so they'll start a trade there soon. But now you lose a DT, make that a 2nd, and the Prism is low, which is obviously worse. He's gonna morph an Archon and recall. Gets 6 workers, but again, it costs him 2 DTs, and now he's got to go back home to pick up his Archon. So a less than ideal situation for Zest.
Yeah, I can kind of see how that can work out, especially if they're scouting where the Warp Prism is. They don't know if you're warping in high ground or low ground. Like, I can see how that's really tricky. And then the 3rd hatch is kind of far away. There's no creep between the main and the natural. Like, the idea of trying to get them in the wrong place is nice, or split up their army incorrectly is nice, but, well, the truth is you also don't have a lot of production to even really force that issue, as we just saw. There wasn't enough to really catch soO off guard in either place. The great news is that soO had to bounce around so often. There definitely wasn't any links across the map. So once again, Zest gets his 3rd base up and running and getting pro production on it as well. This game, we do have a forge, but not being used right now. He's just has enough gas. There we go. That's why.
Okay, so +1 attack will start. A lot of gateways on the way up here, so... I mean, okay, you're definitely going to go into a bit of a longer game this time from Zest, right? You're not just looking for the first initial attack of no upgrades. The Baneling Nest and the Infestation Pit again here from soO so quickly. And he really has me wondering, is he like really wanting to go up to Hive quickly again? Or is this maybe a different plan? Like maybe he feels like this is like a Swarm Host map and he could Nide to sit around a bit? Doesn't really feel like that's necessarily the setup right away. I mean, he doesn't have the gas for Swarm Host, so it should just be a Hive, but it's just not very kind of like soO to play like that.
It's a bit weird, but he might be trying... Well, one, Ice and Chrome being a larger map, like I kind of understand it here as opposed to the Epic Dream, but also, yeah, trying to change up his own style. But Zest is once again going to do a mid-game push. This is more of a posturing. His +1's not done. His charge is not done. It will eventually finish the longer he can stay here, but having alerted soO to this, soO is going to have the Ravagers. And he looks to be feeling quite confident, actually, as he starts up his Hive and his Spire, even with the army on his front lines.
Rosabal goes down to push Zest back, but again, Zest has not really got any intentions of committing to a fight. Very choked up areas, so not really any sort of position. Well, this is a bit weird now when you can come in from 2 angles as soO. That's like your best case scenario. Yeah, Zest is starting up that Temple Archives for the later stages of this, and he'll just load up an Immortal and an Archon to keep on harassing, but it's also pretty low HP Immortal, so you do have to be fairly careful about that. As it will, this Prism get turned around. And the Hive on the way, going to finish up from soO in a moment.
And again, no scouting on that from Zest. In fact, Zest with possibly the least amount of scouting. Doesn't see the Banelings, doesn't see the Hive. So this is, I feel like this is actually problematic. Like that Everdream game was a little weird because Stalkers were available and there was a lot of them left over after the first push out. So yeah, he could have done exactly what he did. He caught them a little off guard and blinked underneath them, but yeah, Blink's not going to be done. I feel like he's lost his momentum on the map, and it is a larger map. Again, can't emphasize that enough.
Yeah.
And he's going to go more with a slower composition by going for that Storm. So soO should definitely get Broodlords, and should be a little less worried about having those Blink Stalkers catch him off guard.
Just going to be seeing the couple of Archons drop down. Hatchery taking damage, and we do see 7 Corruptors on the way out, with the Greatest Spire is on the way from soO as well. I mean, Adrenal Glands +1 melee. Yeah, what do you... I mean, do you just push with Stormer's Zest and Blink finishing? It definitely feels like he just has to add on Stargate's Fleet Beacon and play the much longer game here, but... yeah, for the moment, there's no real intention to go in that direction, so that's going to split a lot of Zealots off and start running these around the map, and that's going to be some run-bys to try and get stuff done.
Imagine getting Adrenal Glands before +1.
Yeah, that's actually kind of crazy.
That's pretty crazy. They'll attack fast, but they won't do very much.
Yeah, it's like you can hit you. It's like they can fight like so quick. I don't know how to like explain it, but like there's definitely like an anime where someone like gets like super strong, but like they're not actually fast enough to like hit everyone and stuff like that. And this is like the other way around. They're like, this guy like worked on his speed, and like, you know, now they're not actually strong enough for their speed to even matter. They're like, they like punch everything, and it's just like it doesn't matter at all. Poor Lings, as we do see this push in from Zest. Maxed out, and the Zealots on high numbers on the left side, and honestly there's nothing on the left, and soO already being engaged into over here is then going to struggle to really deal with that. And of course these choke points kind of working against soO because the Banelings are kind of running into storms pretty much every time. 7 Broodlords building, but they are not ready for this fight, so the timing from Zest is on point. He will get himself a 4th base. Now the Broodlords are here. The thing is, again, the Broodlords are kind of in an odd spot, right? They're down on the bottom, the rest of the army is up to the top. The Archons are just going to keep the Broodlords busy as the rest of the army goes to fight this army, and there's Bane's trying to morph in. A lot of them being cancelled. soO trying to get some units in here to help defend this push, and I think he's just about starting to get there.
Yeah, really nice decision this time. I feel like that Everdream game was actually in his like thought process there, where he was like, let's just give up the base. Like, F this. I'm not going to lose because I try to desperately protect one side with only Broodlords. Now, the Stalkers weren't on the correct side of the Broodlord, so maybe he could have gotten away with that, but there's no guarantee. You know, Zest might have actually just been waiting for the Broodlord to show themselves alone to the south, jump underneath them. So instead, he loses a base, and it was a 4th, so, you know, that's usually pretty critical, but he loses the base, he saves those expensive, slow-building, powerful Broodlords, has culled the Stalker count, and is now going for the counter. But this is where the distance between your bases actually comes to be a weakness for soO. Who wants to counterattack with Broodlords, that's pretty slow.
And Stalkers is Zest going to pick up this hatchery in the front. I mean, he's keeping soO on 4 bases, on 3 bases, right? So this is going to turn pretty interesting with Zest continuing across the map. He's still got Storms, and actually Storms hitting a lot of these Ravagers, really weakening them up. And now you're going to get some Archons morphed in here. I mean, this is what, like 4 Ravagers remaining? So this is getting really weird. Zest had an army supply lead, and the Broodlords are running back home, but you're getting to a point where these Broodlords are going to be on their own without any real proper support. And that's where the Broodlords become very bad again, and that's the issue you kind of find yourself in early in this series as well. And Zest is killing 23 workers. Units are kind of just dying as they spawn. Few corrosive files get blinked away from up into the main base, and of course behind all of this Zest, recall is available, so you can just get out and reset this. And of course then you've just wasted so much time flying around with these Brood Lords without actually achieving anything as soO. Immortal's gonna take a few shots. These Stalkers really gonna run to the corner. There's the recall. Attempt to corrosive file should be a bit too late, and that's just gonna do it. soO's gonna tap out, and Zest is gonna win the WardiTV Spring Championship. 4-1, honestly a commanding finals.